Hey there guys, Aldershot here, and today we're going to do an impression on Chess 2, developed by Ludme Games and Serlin Games. It'll be available on Steam at the regular price of $25. So what is Chess 2 anyways? Well, it's pretty much what the title suggests it to be. It is the sequel to the classic game of chess, and it does it in a few ways. I think one of the biggest changes to Chess 2 from the classic chess is definitely the addition of new armies for players to choose from, among other rules added on top and new mechanics to kind of change things up and all that sort of stuff. Now, this game featuring multiple armies and a whole bunch of new mechanics and all that stuff, I feel like I can't really do it justice as far as explaining the rules in a concise and understandable fashion. So what I'm going to do is at the end of this video I am going to play and record the game's tutorial. It's done in video form. It's not very long, so stay tuned for that. The video tutorial that comes with the game is actually quite well done, very concise and easy to understand, and kept fairly brief as well. So we'll record that at the end of the video, but we'll also have annotations to allow you to skip to that and maybe come back here. Available on screen right now, as well as in the description. Alright, so there you go. Now you know what to expect. And because the game does feature a fair amount of new rules and all that stuff, and new armies, I'm not really going to go over exactly the specific mechanics to Chess 2. I'll mention it as I play through the game, as I feel fit. So what I'm going to do, just to keep the video, at a reasonable time, is to kind of just talk about my thoughts and feelings and some of the features that you'll be getting with this game, with this package. And I'll let the tutorial at the end of the video really give you a better idea of exactly all the new changes and rules to Chess 2 is. Alright, anyways, let's get started. So let's take a look at the menu here. First and foremost, this is the main menu. Unfortunately, there is no options whatsoever. There's no visual or audio options or anything of that sort, so you can't change your graphics settings or your sound settings or anything like that, which is very unfortunate. A little bit weird that's not included, to be completely honest. Hopefully they will add it eventually. It is kind of a weird omission, considering even 8-bit games had option menus, so it's not even really a modern gaming thing. It certainly is a quality of life issue. So that's a bit unfortunate, but anyways, let's move on. We also have the about, which is basically just the credits, so we'll skip that. We'll go into the study, which is where the tutorial is, which you'll see at the end of the video, and also the challenges, which isn't available yet, but it's nice to know that there will be some new features and additions to the game coming soon, which is great. More features and more distractions from the main meat of the game is always welcomed, in my opinion. It just adds value to the package, really. So let's take a look at the play. Now, Correspondence is here and here. I don't know why it's in both places. Seems kind of redundant to me, but it is what it is. Anyways, Correspondence is actually pretty cool. I've been kind of using it. It's basically like the old school chess by mail format, where you would, send a game of chess through mail, telling your opponent where you moved, and then mailing it to them, say across the pond, and them doing the same back for you guys. This is a game that I'm playing with one of the developers, actually, Ludme Games, so it's his turn now, so I'm just waiting for him to take his turn. But yeah, it works just like that, like chess through mail, except through the internet, of course. And of course you can start and play multiple games at once, which is kind of nice, actually. And then under the same play thing, there's also Training Dummy, which is basically the AI that you can play against, which is, good for practice. Now, unfortunately, there's no adjustable AI for the Training Dummy, and I have to admit that the game's AI is a little mediocre. I see it do some funny things sometimes that just doesn't seem to make sense. I've actually talked to the developer about that, and he actually gave me a really good reason to why is that. We'll talk a little bit more about that down the road when we get to it, but yeah, there is actually a really good reason why. And then there's also online, which is the real meat of the game. This is where you're going to be spending most of your time looking for games online. Now, with that said, one thing I do find a little bit odd with what I just said in mind is that there's no lobby system. No way to really match with your friends or people you know, which is, again, very, very odd. Considering, again, multiplayer is such a heavy focus in Chess 2. Now, this is also something that I've talked to the developer. Excuse that, that was my phone. I got a Twitter notification. I did talk to the developer about this, and he did mention that they are planning on an update shortly that will allow you to match with other friends of yours. They were kind of vague about it, so I'm not really sure how they're going to implement that, but it's nice to hear that they do at the very least have it planned. Alright, so that's basically the features and options that you're going to get with this game. This is going to be your package. Admittedly, you know, there's some definite quality of life issues here. The lack of lobbies and lack of options definitely hurt its overall value, in my opinion. But anyways, before we get overly critical right off the bat, let's actually get into a game and kind of discuss the game from there. Again, you know, you got 6 armies to choose from, including the classic army. I'm not going to go over them too much in depth. I'll save that for the tutorial at the end. I'm kind of highlighting them now so you can read the description on the right hand side, just so you can get a quick idea. My favorite is technically the Nemesis, but we're actually going to use animals just because I feel like it has a lot of interesting pieces. So this is Chess 2, as you can see. Now this is kind of the board here. You can kind of just rotate it around, which is kind of nice. One cool thing about this kind of board rotation is that if you look at it from top down, as you can see, the 3D models turn into 2D representations, which is great to help players kind of understand and clarify the battle situations, let's say. Let's see, we're white, so we get to go first. Now, as you can see, our pieces look a little bit different. They don't really look like classic chess pieces. Well, some of them, for example, our rook is an elephant. Obviously, this is a special army. This is the animal army. Right now, we're facing against the Nemesis Army, which is specifically designed around killing the enemy king. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that. In my army, the animal army is a short-range army that is very good at penetrating traditional defenses of chess. Alright, so that's generally how they're going to function. Now you might notice this blue line going through the middle. I want to talk about this real quick because this is actually very, very important for you to understand before I continue. This is a new rule to Chess 2, alright, from the traditional chess. This is called the median line or whatever. I call it the median, either way. This is essentially a new win condition for the game of chess, or in this case Chess 2, in which where if your king can pass the median line safely without putting himself in check, then you win the game. So it's an alternative win condition to the traditional checkmate that is commonly found in classic chess. So in Chess 2 there are 2 win conditions, alright, which definitely helps mix things up. Anyways, let's actually take our turn. We're actually going to move our elephant rook. Now this guy's kind of interesting. Instead of like the regular rook where it can move up and down, left and right unlimitedly as long as not blocked, the elephant can actually move through pieces, including your own, and when he actually takes them. He also takes friendly pieces as well. The elephant also can't be killed unless the enemy piece is 2 spaces away from him. So let's say the rook wants to kill my elephant. He'll have to spend a turn coming here, and then next turn taking out my elephant, assuming that I don't take or I don't move my elephant. So there you go, a little example of some of the new rules. Let's see here. I'm probably going to lose pretty terribly. I'm not that great at this game, to be completely honest. But we'll see what we can do. Let's move our wild horse. So the knight in the animal army is slightly special in that the horse, or the knight, works just like the traditional knight in chess, except for the fact that it can capture friendly pieces as well. You might be questioning why you want to do that. Well, it's a good way to clear the board, clear a path for your king or whatever piece you want to move. So there is that. Now, Chess 2 definitely presents some new strategies and lots of new metas for the game of chess. One thing about chess, the traditional game of chess, is that, you know, it's an old game. All the meta and all the strategies been pretty much sucked out of it. So Chess 2 presents a lot of new metas and a lot of different varieties of strategies for players to explore, even classic chess players. Alright, we'll go back to that in a little bit. I want to talk about this rule here. Is the bidding rule here. Is also a new addition to what would traditionally be called chess. So as you can see, I tried to capture the enemy rook or castle, whatever you want to call it, and this little bid menu comes up. And that's because whenever I capture an enemy piece, he has the option to choose to either duel me or not. If he does, then we start a bidding war. Alright, so we're going to do our bid now. Let's see, I really want to keep my elephant. I'm going to bid 2. And he only bid 1. So therefore, I get to keep my elephant and take his rook. So basically what happened was, the rook was the defending piece. That'll get lost regardless, okay? But if the defender bids more stones than I did, then he can take the attacker. So I would lose that piece. So you really have to watch for your betting stones before you start going on a rampage and start taking out a whole bunch of enemy pieces, because you'll end up losing that piece potentially. And the only way to get more betting stones is to take out enemy pawns. So taking out pawns not only is important for positioning for your pieces or the enemy pieces, but it's now also very important in offensive strategies as well, as you can't just attack willy-nilly, as your attackers will slowly get depleted by betting, essentially. So that's another new layer of mechanic in Chess 2 for players to kind of master. So let's see, it's our turn now, and let's see what we're going to do. Do we want to keep rampaging with our knight? Or not our knight, our elephant. It might be worth our time. We'll get 3 stones out of it. We'll lose an elephant though, but you know what? Let's not. We're going to try and escort our king to the midline. I really like winning with the midline, actually. It's definitely helps speed the game up, which is definitely a bonus. Alright, so let's keep moving. Let's get our other elephant into play. Now earlier I mentioned that the AI is a little bit, I wouldn't say mediocre, it's not that bad, but you know, it's not as good as I've seen from other chess games. And as I mentioned, I talked to the developer about that, and he gave me a very, very good reason to why is that. Chess is an older game, okay? And because of that, there's a lot of data for AI programmers to, you know, get their hands on and create a very meaningful and realistic chess game to play against as far as AI is concerned. Chess 2 is a new game, of course, and because of all the new armies, because of the median line, because of the bidding rule and all these new mechanics, I feel as though because of all these things, you know, it's hard to program an AI with all these new variables, you know? So that's kind of why I think the AI is not as good as some other chess games. Obviously, it could potentially get that good, but the developer would need a huge amount of data set for it to reach that level. But, you know, with that in consideration, the game's not terrible, or the AI is not terrible for what it is. It's still a lot more fun playing with players, or human players, obviously. I think most people would understand that already. Let's see here. Let's get rid of some of these pawns. We don't really care about our elephant here. We just really want to focus on getting our king through. And it looks like he's going to bet. And we're definitely going to want to keep our elephant, so we're also going to bet. There we go. We got new pearls out of it too, or betting stones. So that's basically how I kind of feel about the AI, though it is a little lacking compared to other chess games. It's understandable in that, you know, again, classic chess has hundreds, thousands, like, of years to really work out the kinks for AI with a huge amount of data sets and all that stuff. and Chess 2 just doesn't have that kind of scope and data, so that's why. But overall, I have to say Chess 2 is very, very enjoyable. Alright, it is actually very fun to experiment with all the new pieces, with all the new armies, with the new rules. I think classic chess players will have no issue having fun and enjoying the game. Let's see, I can't take the king for some reason. Okay. Because, well, the thing is, like, Chess 2 is essentially, it feels a lot like chess, and I think that's the important part. And I just put myself into checkmate. I'm terrible at this, apparently. But yeah, it feels like chess, and that's really the important part, especially when you're talking about the target audience. I think classic chess players will have no issue getting into Chess 2 whatsoever. My only real concern is quality of life issues. Again, the lack of options, the lack of a lobby system. It's a little bit odd. It really is a little bit odd, to say the least. Luckily, again, the developer did mention that they are doing some sort of matchmaking thing in the future update. But the options, the lack of options, that still sits kind of oddly with me. So yeah, there is that. We're going to take out the rook. He just kind of opened that up for us. There we go. Now, graphically, the game is pretty good, I have to say. I mean, they're definitely going for that realistic look. I think that's pretty obvious. And because of that, it might lose some initial visual impact compared to more stylized games, let's just say. But despite that, I think classic chess fans would appreciate the aesthetic style that the developers decided on, as you know, it does look very classic chess. As you can see, the classic chess pieces look very much like if it came from chess. They're, you know, well designed with lots of accents and intricacies in the models and textures and all that stuff. It looks quite fantastic. And what's even more important is that the new pieces are really well designed and represent very, very well of the special traits and abilities that they can do, which is great, of course. So yeah, there you go. The aesthetics is appropriate, if nothing else, which is a good thing, of course. Now, as far as understanding Chess 2, at first I thought I was going to have a huge issue really playing the game and understanding how to play it with all these new rules and all these new armies and all that sort of stuff, but the tutorial, as I mentioned before, is really well done, and because of that, that definitely helped things out. But not even just that, one way that Chess 2 kind of mitigate confusion for the player is by not replacing every single new army with all new pieces for the players to learn. Rather, most armies, not all armies, like I said, the animal armies probably have the most pieces replaced, but most armies only have about 3, maybe 4 pieces replaced, maybe even just 2. And because of that, it's much easier for a player to understand what all the new pieces do and how they function and all that sort of good stuff, which of course is a great thing. That's a really wise design decision for the sake of balancing, because already balancing new armies is pretty difficult, I would imagine, and I would imagine developers are still working on that, as I mentioned before, Chess 2 is not as old as chess, so they're still gathering data to improve on the metagame and all that stuff. And because Chess 2 is still new, the entire metagame hasn't been discovered, which is probably going to be an attraction to this game, especially for classic chess players. So yeah, overall, the game isn't too hard to understand, with the marginal pieces being replaced for each new army. Again, that definitely helps things out in understanding. But I have to admit, each army has just enough pieces replaced to make it feel fresh and new, which is great, of course. So overall, as far as the core game of Chess 2, it's very enjoyable. I like the new mechanics. The median line is a great idea to help add variety and to speed the game up. The new metas and strategies presented by Chess 2 is also incredible. and very, very fun to explore and discover, especially if you're a chess fan. And I did play a fair amount of chess in high school. Never was that good, but I always enjoyed the game. That's what really mattered, right? We're definitely going to try and keep our rook. But yeah, so overall it's pretty fun, and the new armies obviously will add a degree of versatility and variety to the game as well. I think that goes without saying. But classic chess fans should definitely check out Chess 2. It's very, very enjoyable. Now, what if you're not a classic Chess 2 fan? What if you're just a board game fan or just a video game fan or whatever? Is this game worth it to you? Well, here's the thing. At $25, I have to be completely honest with you guys, and again, this is going to be subjective. This is just how I feel, alright? Even as a chess fan, even though I do enjoy the game of chess, I do feel currently that $25 is kind of a high price point for Chess 2 at the moment. And it's not because I'm not enjoying the game, it's not because I feel the core game itself isn't worth $25. I feel like the package overall is weak in the sense that there's no options menu, and there's no lobby system, there's not a lot of extra features. It would be really great to see house rules being as an option as well, being able to turn on or off the median line or the bidding system. I think that would be interesting, definitely add some value to the package. And one of my friends suggested that actually he considered a vital sin of this game is not including the classic game of chess for players to play as well. Personally, I don't feel as strongly about that being missing, but I think that would definitely be welcomed and would definitely add value to that $25 price point as far as the average gamer is concerned. Because classic chess fans, I don't think they'll have an issue spending $25 to explore a pretty well-designed new chess game. Considering that board games are pretty expensive anyways, especially one of this caliber in real life anyways. But despite that, as gamers, you might want to look into it a little bit more, see if this is really a game that you're really into, because I don't really want to recommend a game to you guys that you only spend 5 minutes, play one game, then toss it aside, and spend $25 on something like that. So definitely do your research, alright? And definitely look into it. But if you're a classic chess fan, I really don't think you'll have an issue with enjoying Chess 2, as it is quite enjoyable. So there you go, guys. That's essentially how I feel about Chess 2. It's a very, very enjoyable game. I really do like it. Definitely a fair amount of life or quality of life issues. I already mentioned those a few times, so I'm not going to mention them again. Options in lobby, options in lobby. But regardless of that, I am enjoying it quite a lot, actually. I love exploring the new meta game. I love exploring new strategies and seeing what each army has to offer. And I really like the graphical stylings that they chose for the game as well, which is quite wonderful. So there you go, guys. That's essentially how I feel about Chess 2. Not bad, actually. So if you guys are interested in learning more about Chess 2 and its intricacies in the new rules, stick around the video. At the end, again, I will be featuring the recording of the tutorial for this game. It explains it much better than I can, so have a listen to that if you're interested. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys watching. I really do. And if you enjoyed this, show me some love, like, share, fave, and comment. But most importantly, help me grow, feed me my vegetables, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Aldershot out.
This is your king, the most important piece. Your goal is midline invasion. If you safely cross over the midline with your king, you win. You're not allowed to leave your king under threat of enemy capture at the end of a move. When your king is under threat of capture, it is called check. If you are unable to make a move where your king is not in check, it is checkmate, and you lose. Before the game, each player secretly chooses an army to support their king. There are 6 armies to choose from, each with their own pieces and rules for movement. Starting with the light and then dark player, players take turns moving their pieces trying to invade the midline or checkmate their opponent. You can capture an enemy piece by moving your piece to the square it occupies. Captured pieces are removed from the game. Before the defender is captured, it may start a duel. By spending stones in a duel, the defender may also capture the attacker. To duel, both the attacker and defender secretly choose how many of their stones they would like to bid between 0 and 2. All bid stones are immediately removed from the game. Regardless of the outcome of the duel, the defending piece is captured. If the defender wins the duel by bidding more stones than the attacker, both pieces are captured. Initiating a duel and bidding 0 is a bluff to make the opponent waste stones. If the attacker calls your bluff by also bidding 0, he can choose to gain 1 stone or destroy one of the defender's stones. At the start of the game, each player is given 3 stones. Every time you capture an enemy pawn, you gain an additional stone up to a maximum of 6. It is free to initiate a duel unless the rank of the attacking piece is higher than the defender, in which case it must pay 1 stone for the right to duel. From low to high, the ranks of your pieces are pawn, knight and bishop, rook, and lastly queen. Kings have diplomatic immunity and cannot initiate a duel or be dueled. For other armies, each piece has the same rank as the piece it replaces in Classic. For example, the elephant from Animals has the same rank as a rook. Classic is the original army from chess and the only army that can castle. The empowered army features high mobility when your pieces are working together as a team. When any empowered knight, bishop, or rook is horizontally or vertically adjacent to another on your team, each piece gains the movement powers of its neighbor. The elegant queen can only move as a king. The Two Kings army features powerful warrior kings that can move quickly into battle and devastate groups of enemy pieces. A warrior king moves and captures the same way as a king, but has the additional option to whirlwind attack, destroying all touching friendly and enemy pieces. To win by midline invasion, both of your warrior kings must safely cross the midline. After your first move, you may optionally make an extra move using one of your warrior kings. Neither of your warrior kings are allowed to be in check after either your first or extra move. If either is checkmated, you lose. The Reaper army features such haunting abilities as teleportation and immortality. The Reaper can teleport and capture anywhere on the board except the enemy's back row. The Reaper cannot capture a king. A ghost can teleport to any open square. Ghosts cannot capture or be captured. The Animals army is a short-ranged army with penetrating attacks that break through typical defenses. The Wild Horse moves like a knight, but can capture friendly pieces. A tiger can only move up to 2 squares diagonally. When a tiger captures, it immediately returns to the square it attacked from. The Jungle Queen can move as both a rook or as a knight. An elephant moves like a rook, but only up to 3 squares. An elephant can capture friendly and enemy pieces. When it does, it rampages and must move the maximum distance of 3, capturing everything in its path. Pieces more than 2 squares away cannot capture the elephant. The Nemesis Army features a focused attack on the enemy king. The Nemesis moves like a queen, but cannot capture or be captured except by an enemy king. A Nemesis pawn moves and captures like a pawn, but may make a non-capturing Nemesis move, which is a 1-space move closer to an enemy king. Unlike pawns, Nemesis pawns cannot move 2 spaces on their first move. If the same situation occurs 3 times, the game is a draw. This is called Threefold Repetition. The situation includes the positions of pieces, player to move, and ability to castle and en passant. If 50 moves are made with no captures or pawn moves, the game is a draw. Unlike classic chess, there are no stalemates in chess 2. If you cannot make a move, it is checkmate and you lose. That's it. If you want to see how the rules work in a real game, you can try practicing against the computer. Once you are ready, test and improve your skill by playing online.